week on Crime Cocktails and BS, we're joined by Shannon, the host of Fluently Forward.
Yes, we're diving into the messy overlap between gossip and investigation, from blind items to celebrity conspiracies, to when the internet starts playing detective. So grab a drink and get ready for secrets, PR spins, and the blurry line between truth and rumor. Shannon, welcome to Crime Cocktails and BS. We're so happy
Welcome.
to have you.
Hey, I'm excited to talk all things scandalous gossip with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
It's one of our favorite things to talk about on and off the podcast, honestly.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
So first, we wanted to hear more about Fluently Forward and your story/history. What first inspired Fluently Forward, and did you expect it to turn into such a big thing and go to space for celebrity theories and blind item deep dives?
Definitely not. I mean, I started Fluently Forward. It was over on TikTok. I don't know when you guys joined TikTok, but I feel like the COVID era was when so many people decided to get on. And I've been reading blind items for like 15 years, maybe. And I just kind of assumed that everybody was reading blind items right along with me. So when I started talking about them casually on TikTok, the number one question I got from people was, like, what is a blind item? What is this website that you're going to? Why are you speaking in such riddle code? And I realized that not a lot of people really knew about blind item lore in the way that I did. I think Dumois kind of popularized it a little bit, but that was what led to me talking on TikTok about all of these things that I had considered truth because I've been reading them for years on all of these websites and kind of the hidden underbelly of the celebrity world. And once people started watching the TikToks, they asked for a podcast and hence my career for the past 4 years. So it's been really fun getting to turn something that, to me, some people read the New York Times. I would like wake up with coffee and read the blind items and Daily Mail and Page
Yes.
Six. And
Yeah.
it's just really fun, I think, both from like a sociological perspective, but then also just like a who cares, we're talking gossip perspective. I think pop culture is like such a huge pillar on our society. So I love looking at it from every angle.
I
Yeah,
love that.
I think it definitely during COVID just kinda took over because it was kinda like, well, there's nothing going on in our lives, what's happening outside?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need
Um,
drama.
yeah, well, actually, I was just watching, Subway Takes
Oh,
yesterday,
hmm.
and there was one where this girl said, like, "We need gossip in order to survive," and the guy was like, "100% disagree," and she was like, "No, hear me out, it's been around forever. One person's gossip can be another person's, like, red flag situation to steer them in the right direction."
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
First of all, I
yeah.
would punch that Subway guy in the face, the way that he always disagrees with every single woman, and
Everyone!
he's so
Mhm.
smug about it. 100% disagree. Really? You don't even 98% disagree with me? Like, calm
Yeah,
down. Like, put me on Subway, I'll just strangle him. I'll be like, "That's the
Yeah.
video." Like, anyway,
yeah,
but I completely agree with that. Like, there's a reason why women gravitate towards gossip, and it's because sometimes it's like, "Oh my god, did you hear what that girl did?" But then sometimes it's like, "Hey, that guy's a rapist. Maybe don't go on a date with him." So it
yeah,
covers like a lot of different bases. And anybody who says that they're not into gossip, you're either not fun at parties or you're lying through your teeth because
yep,
everybody likes gossip. I would gossip with my grandma, I gossip with my family, with my neighbors. It's communication.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
completely agree.
yeah. So, what does your research process look like behind the scenes? Are you a Reddit scroller? Do you do more of your research like online, or how do you source your information and form your opinions?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say it was going to the library and getting
I
primary
know.
sources, but it is the opposite. It's mostly all done through screens and also just sourcing gossip because over the years, so many people will write in and email me or message me something and be like, I listened to your episode about this guy and I also know this, or my friend hooked up with Scooter Braun a couple years ago. So
Oh
some of
god.
it is kind of that,
Yeah.
network of
Wow.
gossip. And then I also think too, blind items seem now that they've become more popular, I think a lot of them are just kind of more and more bullshit in a way that they weren't maybe 10 or 15 years ago. So a
Right.
lot of gossip does come sometimes from Reddit or reading in between the lines of something and following up. I also really like diving deep into interviews that actual celebrities do because so many times, like we did an episode on Tate McRae and they were saying her father is a lawyer and that's why they lived in Oman for a few years when she was younger. And then you look into it and her father's like an oil and gas lawyer, really, really rich. perhaps there's even some not nepo status, but like maybe that's how she got her career started. So on Wikipedia, it's going to say he's a lawyer, so they moved overseas. But then you dig into it and it's like, oh, she grew up pretty rich. Her dad has like
Mhm.
an ass load of money. So I always like kind of digging deep into those interviews because sometimes that's where you get like the good bulk of information.
Stuff. I wish I had more time to do that. That's our
Yeah.
struggle. Like we have full-time jobs to balance it, and we're like, we want to consume all of that information, but it's so hard to fit in. So
Yeah, I'll give a
I'm
good hack
envious
for
of
that
you.
is, I literally shower with my AirPods in underneath my shower cap, so I'll just, like,
Smart.
listen, go for my
Oh,
walk in the morning, be, like, listening to these interviews, just consuming it, and it's
hell
also
yeah.
great because I think then you get to feel a little bit of somebody's vibe and personality, like Julia Michaels, who's one of the
Mhm.
biggest songwriters for pop. I was
Yeah.
reading a lot of her interviews, and I was like, "Oh, interesting, interesting," and then I listened to an interview of hers and I went, "Ooh, different vibe than I thought that she would have." So
Oh,
sometimes you pick up on that when you hear someone speak.
that's great advice. So you walk that perfect line between hilarious commentary and thoughtful critique. How do you balance being funny without crossing into being like mean or offensive, I guess? Are you
I
careful about that, or is it just
I would say I slip up and cross into it all the time. I just said I would strangle the guy on the subway.
we agree with that.
Yeah. You're
um,
not alone.
Mhm.
I think for me, the big thing is like I know that nowadays it seems like we're really moving into this like moral purity test of a culture. And when I cover a celebrity, I don't want to cover like their scandals or their fuck ups just to say that they're a bad person, but more so to be like, okay, why do we think that they're falling into these fuck ups? Like when Taylor Swift doesn't speak out politically, it's not because I think she's a secret conservative, but it's because I think she's such a capitalist that she wants to keep her fan base. Or when Doja Cat yells at her fans, I don't think that she's actually
Yeah.
hating her fans, but I think
Yeah.
that maybe the label has her in a chokehold and she wants to express freedom in any way that she can. So I really think just looking at it from a place of like, no one is ever good fully or bad fully. I don't 100% disagree, hashtag Subway takes with like anyone and their decisions. And I just think that's like not a way to go about it. So I think with celebrities, like so many of them are a mirror to us. And I think what most people really want at the end of the day is authenticity from a celebrity. And that's why when Meghan Markle says like, "Oh my god, I didn't even know who Prince Harry was," or
Oh my God.
Bieber goes like, "I didn't know who Justin Bieber was," we get so enraged about that. And it's not because they're lying or fibbing, it's because they're being inauthentic. And I think that's why you start to see people say, I love Wendy Williams, I love Gwyneth Paltrow, people love Donald Trump, like it's this idea. Even if it's fake, but the veneer of someone being real, I think that's what most people want from celebrities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think off that, a lot of people kind of consider gossip as lowbrow, which I mean we don't, obviously. But your show adds such like a great journalistic edge to it. Where do you think the line between like gossip and genuine investigative commentary kind of lies?
I mean, I think gossip is always the number one spot. And something that kind of pisses me off is how it's considered so lowbrow and it's not taken seriously. But when you look at, for example, like the Harvey Weinstein situation, people only took it seriously when the New York Times reported on it. And the New York
Mhm.
Times only reported on it because enough gossip, AKA tips, came to them over the years. So gossip is always at the forefront of everything. And I feel like we need to do a really better job of bridging that gap from gossip to official news sources because it's all just stupid gossip on the internet until it appears on a reputable news source and then suddenly, oh my god, it's fact, it's been there the whole time. You get all these celebrities coming out of the woodwork.
Right.
Well, it's always been an open secret that blah blah blah. And some of these open secrets are really harmful to people. I mean, look at Diddy, look at Epstein. Like, if you were able to bridge that gap between gossip and taking it to journalists to kind of cement it as fact, I think we would be doing a lot better in society.
Yeah. And I think
100% agree.
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
100% agree.
I think it's something like people think celebrity gossip is like those headlines from when we were little kids, like so and so looks fat in this swimsuit or whatever. Like
Mhm.
now it's so much more journalistic, I guess.
Yeah, the tabloids
Um,
we had growing up with, like, actual weight in pounds of different
Yeah.
celebrities and how they were
insane.
pregnant every other month, like, so much has changed. It's wild that we grew up in that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Thanks for letting us in on some of your process for your podcast. I know you studied sociology in college, and I wanted to get your perspective on some of the things around psychology and culture and celebrity gossip and true crime. Things we're obsessed with that we're not supposed to know, basically. So, how blind items became the modern gossip column and how much of it is real versus PR planted?
I mean, I think a lot of people are into blind items and also a little bit of conspiracy theories nowadays because our trust in these like major institutions has really been shaken. Like back in the day, if a celebrity went on a late night talk show, you might be able to get a couple good nuggets out of them or some stories, but everything seems faker and faker and faker until suddenly you're just playing charades on Jimmy Fallon, like you're not even like telling anything about your story. Or a what's in a bag video. It used to be what was
Yeah.
actually in someone's bag, but
Mhm.
suddenly the makeup company that they have a contract with for the next 3 years, all of the products are in their bag. So I think
Of course, yeah.
as that like dial and meter started to go more and more fake, people started to go, well, like, screw this. I'm not getting the good stuff that I want. We're just being sold things. So I think people started to gravitate towards gossip channels and blind items and Dumois and Reddit snark to see what was really going on because there's always going to be that insatiable urge in people to know what's really happening. And I think this perhaps wouldn't have happened or wouldn't have happened as quickly if people were a little bit more real with it. Like nowadays we have celebrities showing up with completely different faces and saying
Oh,
it's
yeah.
because I eat quinoa and Japanese sweet potatoes. And it's like, please, you can only blatantly lie to me so many times before I'm going to start digging for the truth. And I think
Yeah.
if we lived in a world, almost to go back to that Gwyneth Paltrow example, when she talks about how, oh, yeah, I like using Botox, but I also like having a cigarette every once in a while. People go, okay, she said it, I'll move on. But then when Bella Hadid says, the only thing I've ever gotten in is a nose job, people go, absolutely not. So I think
Yeah.
it's interesting how a lot of celebrities are just trying to have such a perfectly clean slate, and I think part of that is because we're now in this, like, moral litmus test of a culture, but I think it would be better for everyone just to be a little bit more honest and authentic. I think that always gets you the better outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty interesting and fascinating to see how much is so curated now versus like looking back at more authentic interviews. Um, and with that, is there still like a blind, like an old school blind item that still fascinates you, or one that's like has actually aged pretty well from what you remember?
Oh, as in, like, it ended up coming true?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my god. Well, I mean, like, number 1, I think, would be, like, the Harvey Weinstein
Mhm.
situation. There is not that this is, like, correct, but I think some of the outing of celebrities over the years has definitely come from different blind items. The Scientology ones always get
Yeah.
me, like, what really is going on with it? And you think
Mhm.
back to the Will Smith and the Tom Cruise era, but then over on SNL, you have Chloe Fineman, and I'm pretty sure that
Mhm.
she's a Scientologist and her family is. So Elizabeth Moss, like, Scientology is something that is such a closed case, even though everybody knows that it's weird, there's still people who are missing and we don't know where they are, and I think
Yeah.
that's something that really has a grip on me, and it kind of intersects a little bit with true crime as well because there's such creepy shit that goes on there with the Scientology
Stalking
crowd.
and
Yeah.
harassment. Yeah, it's really
Mhm.
interesting. And
Yeah.
also Britney Spears really stood out to me as the abuse of Britney Spears. That
Totally.
I
Oh my
mean,
god,
that
that's
came
another
out,
great
came to
one. Yeah.
fruition. Yeah.
You were a crazy conspiracy theorist wackadoo for talking about it until suddenly it came out that it was true. And, nobody ever apologizes to the people who were like, no, 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 something was going on with her.
Mhm.
But it was. And then I think Army Hammer too. I mean, God, like
Mhm.
you could just go on and on. Diddy, everything that was happening there. Like there's just so many weird things that have happened over the years. We still don't know exactly what happened with Justin Bieber and Diddy.
Yeah.
It seems like there's
Mhm.
a lot of horrible things that happen in Hollywood.
So the ethics of speculation, when does curiosity cross into invasion? We kind of talked about this, but when does it cross into invasion?
I think as long as you're talking about it, it's fine. It's such a hard line to figure out like where you're going to toe that line. I'm so glad that I don't have to be like a politician or make official rules about this because I consider I think we should be able to talk about anything and everything. We're talking, we're chattering, as long as you're not doing it in like a hate speech type of way, as long as you're not going through somebody's trash to add to your speculation, you're not following them like a paparazzi. But I would imagine if I want to say something to my friends over happy hour, I consider that fine to say on a podcast. And my kind of golden rule for this is if I feel fine with people saying it about me, I'm fine for myself to say it about other people. And I think the latest thing is people say, don't speculate on sexuality. It's harmful. It's dangerous. I personally don't give a shit about that. Like, if somebody is coding or flagging or dropping hints and people in the queer community pick it up and go, oh my God, wait a minute, I kind of relate to this because of XYZ, then that's fine. It's
Yeah.
completely different
Yeah.
speculating on something like that rather than saying Shawn Mendes has a gay voice. So I think that he's gay. I
Yeah.
wouldn't consider that like a form of honest speculation. But I think when it's coming from people who say, I see this, I relate to it, like when Taylor Swift put out the song Bigger Than the Whole Sky, a lot
Mhm.
of women who had had miscarriages said, this really reminded me of my experience. And people were like, how dare you? You can't say that. I think it's fine. Like, we don't need to say, like,
Yeah.
at Taylor Swift, did you have a miscarriage? That's
Right.
crazy. That's invasive. But to talk with people and say, I saw something in this celebrity's words or actions, and it reminded me of what was going on in my life. I think that's the kind of community building type of speculation or gossip or conversation that I want to have.
What are your thoughts on like the parallels between blind item sleuthing and like true crime investigation? We have like the detective mindset, confirmation bias, internet rabbit holes, all those things.
I think what's interesting about both camps is that you have these institutions, right? Like, you have, I don't know, like detectives and the police force with true crime. And then with gossip, you have the journalists and the reporters and the paparazzi. But in both of those cases, a lot of people online figure out stuff quicker. And that's sometimes because these big institutions haven't gotten, like, can they save a PDF? Can they print a file? Can they, like,
Yeah.
I think that they're a little bit technologically behind. So it's interesting that sometimes on Reddit, people will be like, oh my God, these two celebrities unfollowed each other and they started liking this and they dropped a comment there. And it seems like this is happening and it could be accurate. And page six isn't going to do that. It's people online. And same with true
Right.
crime. I mean, there's been so many cases where people online have gotten like really solid evidence work done just from their computers in a way that these institutions can't. So I find that like a really fascinating parallel between both of them.
Yeah, it's like this, they both are the search for the truth, like finding patterns and things, and it's exciting. So it's
Yeah,
an
yeah, probably a
interesting
lot of
process.
neurodivergent people in both, just doing pattern
Yeah,
Yeah.
recognition and like high
totally.
screen time, and look what it gets you.
Exactly. So we wanted to talk about pop culture conspiracies and media control. So why certain celebrities like Beyonce, Taylor Swift, the Kardashians spawn entire conspiracy subcultures.
I feel like there's a big correlation between them and almost religious figures. So I feel like the modern day Stan is almost like a faithful worshiper with some of these people, especially with Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Beyonce more so back in the day. Like, not only are you calling these people mother, like mother is
Yeah.
feeding us, like all of the language is so cuckoo. But then you also quote their lyrics as scripture. Like, you follow them to your shows, you're paying them so much money. Whatever they say, like, you get it as merch and you wear it out. It's almost, not to say that it's a cult, but there's almost like a lot of religious devotion that's inspired within these people. And then I think because you also have that parasocial relationship and you don't know what's going on, instead of this being a godly figure that exists and you can never speak to them, you might see them at a concert. You might watch their Instagram live. Maybe they answer your question. Maybe they like one of your comments or repost a TikTok. So it gives you a little bit of that inkling of, maybe this person is my friend, maybe they're not. And whenever there's a parasocial connection, it's so ripe for the field of like assumptions and speculation and filling in the blanks. So I think some people lean into it. Like, I think Taylor Swift definitely does. And then I think some people steer away from it. I'm pretty sure Beyonce doesn't really feed into that as much as Taylor Swift would, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like fan fiction. People
Hmm.
are filling in the blanks in their head and creating this dream connection to that person. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's almost like you have enough to make it work, but not enough to know for sure, which is when you like the theory that Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson dated, the Larry
Oh yeah.
theories. there's so much evidence for that. And then there's the equal amount of evidence against it. So, like, depending on what camp you fall into, you could totally assign yourself to that devotion or that strain of faith and follow it down. And there's a whole community of people who are into it. So, it's kind of fun. As long as you don't take it too seriously, it's fun. And then
Mhm.
sometimes it gets a little
Yeah.
bit spooky.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I guess a good jumping off point from there is like PR stunts. Do you think that they are possibly like the new true crime cover up type thing?
I think it dep I think sometimes I think we're starting to say a little bit too many things are PR now,
Yeah.
just because I see like this happen anytime a trend gets popular online. Once we found out what a nepo baby was, anyone who had money was like, "They're a nepo baby." Once
Oh
we found
yeah.
out what buccal or buccal fat was, anyone with high cheekbones, it's like, "They got the procedure." Anyone skinny is on Ozempic. And I think with PR stunts, anytime 2 people start dating, they're like, "Is it PR?" And it's like, well, first of all, every celebrity relationship is PR because they're benefiting from it. Every Hollywood loves a couple, it's so great when 2 B plus people
Mhm.
get together and they make an A minus list couple. And I think that we're just a little bit more aware of things. Like back in the day, those tabloids saying stars, they're just like us. They go out to the grocery store. No, they don't. Like they went out once and the paparazzi caught them there and they held up mascara from the grocery store. If you've ever
Yeah.
seen Lucy Hale from Pretty Little
Yeah.
Liars, all of her
Yeah.
paparazzi shots. So I think we're a little bit more clued into that because information is like spreading across social media. So when Sabrina Carpenter does a photo shoot with her dog, on grass while she's wearing stilettos, people look at that and they go, "Well, that's insane. Surely that's to
Yeah.
promote her new album, Man's Best Friend, coming up." So I think we're a little bit quicker to catch on to things. And I think because we are, it almost makes it a little bit more fun to see what happens. So when Haley Bieber wears a shirt that says Nepo Baby and photos are taken of her in a parking garage, we go, obviously that's paparazzi. When Kendall Jenner screws up and she hands a Pepsi to a police officer at a protest. And then the next week, Chloe's like, "Oh my God, I have something to say about my relationship with Tristan." We go, "Oh,
Oh
okay, that's
yeah.
the Kardashian plan of
Mhm.
moving the girls around like chess pieces to get the heat off of them." So
Mhm.
I feel like it's kind of now in a little bit of this fun time where we can clock some of the PR moves that happen. We're not always going to be correct, but it's fun to feel a little bit like an insider.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. What do you think about like the recent viral industry plant conversations and like celebrity rebrands?
Yeah, for industry plants, I think that term gets overused sometimes. I mean, anyone who pops off, people call them an industry plant, even if they've been like Sabrina Carpenter
Mhm.
in the music industry for like 10 years or Charlie XCX, and then they're finally getting their big break. Or even Chappell Roan, doing music for like 5 years before things took off. So once again, I think it's one of those phrases that gets overused a lot. But then I think it's less so industry plant. And I think it's more so just connections. Like everyone
Yeah.
wants us to stop talking about Nepo babies. But when you look into it, so for example, Somber, he's taking off. He went to school for music. He's got a great voice. He's always been producing from a young age. That's a great story. Amazing. But then when you double click into it, as I did for one episode over on Patreon about Somber, you find out that his dad works for this organization for the Elton John I don't know, like nonprofit stuff. And then Elton John recommended Somber on one of his playlists that everybody listens to. And then that's how he started to get so popular. And then
Right.
suddenly every record label was in his inbox after he dropped the song Caroline. So it's like, yeah, it's talent, it's luck, it's hard work, and then there's also something else involved as well. And I think finding that story, like I think we don't talk enough about how Taylor Swift grew up in Pennsylvania, but she faked a country accent
Agreed.
to get into country and everyone's like, "Oh my god, what an amazing story." Like when you really look into it, I mean, even Sabrina Carpenter took her 10 years to pop off,
Yeah.
but her aunt was the voice of, I think Lisa from The Simpsons. So she had
Yep.
that in, and she grew up so rich that her dad had a recording studio for her in her backyard, which is different than, ironically, the story of Barry Keoghan, who she dated, and he was raised by a single mother and had to spend all of his money to take the bus to theater
Mhm.
lessons, basically. So I think a lot of celebrities don't want us talking about the nepo baby status of it, but most things in Hollywood are connections, and I'm curious to see who has those and who doesn't.
Yeah, I feel like we've been like you were saying earlier, kind of like the oversaturation of calling out everyone as like a nepo baby
Yeah.
instead of kind of separating, yes, like this person's parent was an actor or their aunt or whoever it is, and actually seeing like more of those connection based relationships that are also there and kind of like you have to dig a bit deeper to find them.
Yeah, and I don't think it
Yeah.
discredits anything too, because for
No.
example, like Lily Rose Depp, she's a fantastic
Yeah.
actress, I
It's
think.
really
I'm really
good.
excited
Yeah.
to see what she does. And of course, she's a Nepo baby. But then you also look at Dakota Johnson, and I'm sorry, she's beautiful. I love her on Pinterest. But like every single movie that I see her in, I'm like, oh my God, you play the same character who's
Mhm.
just dry and sarcastic and over it. And it's really not that much range. So her being a Nepo baby, I think we should all be talking about that way more than Lily Rose Depp, because at least she's bringing
Mm.
an unbelievable acting range to whatever she does.
Right.
Yeah, it comes down to the talent, like Lana Del Rey was one that was called out as an industry plant, like Ice Spice, but they're talented people, so they make really great art. So I'm like, do we really need to judge them based on their resources and things like that, their connections?
And I think these celebrities too, like if you feel good about your talent and what you're able to bring to like the creative world and the arts, I think then they don't mind the Nepo baby question so much. But you can tell that, what do they say? Like hit dogs holler, because so many of these celebrities, you bring up the word Nepo baby in an interview and they start talking about how there's nepotism and for doctors and all of these things.
Mhm,
And it's like, okay,
mhm.
let's calm down. You were paid $2 million to
Yeah.
say 30 seconds in a movie. You're trying to compare
Yeah.
yourself to a doctor? Like, fuck off,
Yeah, that's true.
So I think the fact that these people can't even say, "Yeah, I got so lucky and my mom helped me with this." You
Yeah.
should be able to say that as you then end the
Yeah.
interview and go eat omakase and get a Swedish massage. Like,
I
these
totally
people
agree.
act like they're such victims. It's wild.
Any crimes or cover-ups that you thought got media washed or downplayed?
This is wild because I think he was in my dream last night, but Jared Leto, I am waiting for his day to come. The number of
Mhm.
people who have written in being like, I was underage, I was at a 30 Seconds to Mars concert,
Yes.
I hooked up with him, my friend hooked up with him. Like, when in the hell are we gonna start talking about Jared Leto? Like,
He's
not
ridiculous.
and I think the notion of like saying anything that's vaguely QAnon adjacent, it gets people skittish to talk about this online, but I don't care if
Mhm.
people call me QAnon. Like, I'm certainly not, but we need to talk about the fact that Diddy was doing stuff with minors. Harvey Weinstein was abusing and coercing
Yeah.
and raping all of these women. Brian Singer, let's look into him. Jared Leto, let's look into him. Army Hammer, let's keep our foot on his neck. Kevin Spacey, why are we letting him back into the industry? The fact that I could
Yeah.
go down the list and name all of these people who have abused minors, and we want to say that like there's not a pedophile problem, there absolutely is, and they're getting away with it in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And Jared Leto, man, I am just like
I hate
waiting for his
He's
day.
the worst.
We
Yeah,
did
we
a
got
Jared Leto episode, and we did a deep dive into him, and just, like, watching the interviews with him, he's just so disgusting the way he
Even
treats
yeah.
women and
Did you see the one with
anyone.
Emilia Clarke from Game of
yeah.
Thrones?
Yeah,
Like, please, like,
insane.
and that's how he acts with someone his own age with cameras in front of him and everybody watching. So I can't even imagine what he's like behind closed doors.
It's really upsetting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Ugh,
He's
and
so
he's in Tron, right? And I was like, "I'm not gonna watch that." Isn't it Tron? The new
I
movie
yes,
he's
because
in?
I saw did you see that video of, like, he went to go surprise a theater that had seen the movie, but it was only, like, 20% full, and he shows
Oh,
up with, like, this ring light following him, and there's, like, barely anyone in the audience.
that's really
Ooh.
funny. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna watch it because he's in it. But
Same,
yeah,
yeah,
same.
no, I'm good.
so
What's your take on like how gossip podcasts sometimes break stories before a news cycle?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because a gossip podcast is just another form of gossip, so it's gonna come before any type of news cycle, and, it's almost like maybe it's the in between before you get to journalism, and then you just have regular gossip, because I've had some people tell me tips and they've got evidence for it, so I'll talk about it on the podcast, and I don't think it gets picked up by, like, the Wall Street Journal, but perhaps BuzzFeed News or something like
Yeah.
that is then going to talk about it, and, yeah, I think podcasts are interesting. I mean, we've got elected officials going on podcasts nowadays, so it
Yeah.
seems like they're almost
mhm.
becoming a form of late night talk shows or radio. It seems like they're definitely moving up in the zeitgeist.
Yeah. Also, you just said something that I'm curious about is if someone comes to you and says that they have evidence about something going on, like how much evidence do you need from someone saying that in order for you to feel comfortable, like, speaking on it?
Yeah, I would say it depends if so the majority of what I get, which isn't always great for the content of the podcast, but I'll put out an episode. I'll say, for example, Rafe Fiennes, who
Mhm.
plays
Voldemort.
Voldemort. Yeah, and he's been in a bunch of things. There were all these blind items about him being creepy, and a lot of them do have stuff to back it up. Like there was the story of a flight attendant who he like hooked up with on a flight, and that was a blind item, but it turned out to be a true story when I looked into
Oh,
it. And she
wow.
had been interviewed, and he was like being creepy on the flight. And there were all of these stories. So I talked about that in an episode. And I think I got three different people messaging me after to be like, oh my God, you said this story, XYZ happened. So sometimes it's people confirming, and then it makes me go, oh, okay, that blind item I wasn't sure about. But now that multiple people have said that they or their friend has had a bad experience with him, I'm going to kind of trust it.
Yeah.
Then it's also the category of people who are also influencers who listen to the podcast and they know someone who knows someone like directly. Like I once talked to a girl who like slept with Hussein Bolt or like all of these
Mhm.
different people that I'll speak to. So if I have that in-person connection, I'm going to trust what they say cuz some
Right.
of these sources are like really, really solid. Or if somebody messages me, usually there'll be some either like an amount of detail or they'll have a screenshot or the Uber or they grabbed a photo of, the side of Kanye West when he was leaving when this happened. So usually something like that. And it also, I think, adds a lot of credence if it adds up with other things that I've heard. So if somebody said, Taylor Swift punched me in the face, she does this all the time, I would be like, well, I've never heard anything like that before. But if somebody says, Taylor Swift, I don't know, gave a secret donation of like $5,000 to me when I waited on her at a restaurant, I would say, okay,
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm. So the way public sympathy shifts and why we defend certain villains. I don't know. I found myself with Bravo celebrities kind of getting defensive when they do something wrong. And then I have to check myself and really say, well, that was really wrong and it hurt people. And I find that people like the Swifties, no, she cannot do any wrong. Think about that.
Yeah,
And
what's
like,
an example of because I'm not into the Bravo world. So what are
yeah,
some of their scandals that you might find yourself defending?
Oh, like tax evasion, one of the Real Housewives of Potomac past couple weeks got arrested. Her and her husband got arrested because they reported that a bunch of stuff got stolen from a burglary in their house, and now they have evidence
oh
that she was wearing like a ring that she said was stolen.
yeah.
And yeah.
So Wendy, that's a good example. Like off the jump was like, "Oh, it's gotta be a misunderstanding, like, there's no way. She's such a successful woman, she's a strong woman, I've always respected her on TV," and then, I mean, it seems like it's true now, so I have
Wow.
to walk back
Okay.
on that
Mhm.
and
Okay. I get what you're
kinda
saying.
check myself.
So like buying into what they're doing, kind of not thinking from both sides of it.
Yeah, there's, like, I don't know, you're blinded by charisma. Like,
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I think like a celebrity one that could be like an equivalent is like when Johnny Depp and Amber Heard went to
yeah,
trial. There were so many people on both sides, and then I think a lot of people were. I mean, it's still up like who was right. I mean, obviously, I think you had media outlets kind of framing both as villains, and
mhm.
then so you obviously had people defending Johnny Depp. You had some people defending Amber Heard. So it's like I think that's what you were kind of getting at, right? Kaisa, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the most wild thing from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case is that every time she was crying in court, people went, "She's an actress. So what do you
yeah,
expect? This is what she does." Hello, he's also an actor. Like the way
Yeah.
that they thought that the only person who went to acting school and could have possibly been faking their emotions was Amber Heard, even though Johnny Depp is a notorious actor who's been acting for far longer than she has. I was like, what are we even doing here? And then you had people showing up to defend him dressed up like Jack Sparrow from
yeah,
the Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's like, he's not Jack Sparrow, he's Johnny Depp. So, this happens all the time too. I think it's interesting with, Marvel superheroes, this idea of like, "Oh my god, he's such a jacked, strong guy." Yeah, and he's wearing concealer and there's a green screen behind him. Like,
Yeah.
people really forget about the movie magic, and, I mean, this has been done since the beginning of time. You just have to think back to Bill Clinton going, "I did not have sexual
oh my god,
relations with that woman." Like, celebrities will blatantly lie to your face as long as they think that they can get away with it and they have enough charisma to do so. And I think the scary thing is that now we live in a world where it's not just charisma and lying and PR and media outlets helping you cover it up. Now we also have bots and defamation teams that will absolutely
Yeah.
body someone and change the public opinion and narrative online. So in the case of Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, we saw that in a huge way. If you even started to think for a second, maybe Amber Heard is saying something correct. Oh, no, no, no. Your algorithm is going to show you all of these things and it's going to be carefully cherry picked to try to change how you think. So I think that's another thing that's really scary too, is that if we don't have anything to go off of and we don't know these people because they're all strangers to us, we have our gut instinct and our intuition, and they really try to beat that out of you with all of these bots and smear
Yeah.
campaigns online. So I think it's important that everybody keeps that and grows it within themselves.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, go ahead, Kajsa, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think, like, Johnny Depp, for example, he was a huge part of my childhood, like, watching all of his movies. I have felt a really strong connection to him, and I think sometimes people it's like emotional self-preservation, where if you feel like you're rejecting them, you're rejecting a part of yourself, and, like,
Yeah, well, think of Bill
there's that
Cosby, you
whole
know? He was
Yeah,
America's
yeah,
dad. Nobody wanted him to be a rapist, and he was. So, it's
exactly.
interesting how a lot of these people it's almost some of the people that's why I've got my eye on Tom Hanks, you know? Anyone who's like,
Yeah.
"I'm America's dad, and I do all of these lovely, friendly things, and I'm such a good guy," and they're always in good guy campaigns. If that is who you're gonna brand yourself as and you're gonna be known as, it makes me suspicious of someone nowadays, you know?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, and I don't know, I always catch myself in those moments where someone has kind of built themselves up into that brand, and then we find something out, I'm always like, "Oh, no, but I should have known." Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, Bill Cosby, Ellen, there was somebody
mhm,
else too, but,
Yeah,
like,
Ellen.
it's just so funny. It's always the people shouting from the rooftops about how kind they are. I mean, not
mhm,
to such an egregious example, but how interesting that Selena Gomez is always saying, "Be kind," every time she goes on Instagram and makes a fucking mess of a situation, and then she ends it with, "Everyone be kind to each other." Okay, just
yeah,
because you said "be kind" like Ellen DeGeneres didn't mean that you didn't just cause a shitstorm for Hailey Bieber for the next 8 days. Like, come
yeah.
on.
Right.
No,
Exactly.
that's so true. So, with that, like, with these kind of culty fan bases, like, what do you think of this, like, blurred line between them and, like, people who are essentially, like, enabling criminals because they're such devout fans?
Mhm.
Yeah, God, I just think it's so wild, and once again, I go back to that cult-like aspect, like, people just I do think at the end of the day, like, they think that they're doing the right thing, and also another thing about online is that you can't tell how old someone is, and sometimes, especially with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, I feel like it was people in their 40s and 50s who were defending him, so,
Mhm.
with their entire chest, but when I go back on Facebook and I look throughout my memories, I was that girl being like, "How dare you say anything bad about Demi Lovato? She did this." Basically like working for free to defend her
Mhm.
name online like a freak. And like that's what I was doing when I was 14 because I had nothing else to do on the internet. So I think a lot of these comments that we see of people being up in arms about something, I wish that you could see next to that comment like, is this person a stan? Is this the only thing that they comment on? How old are they?
Yeah.
Because then I think we would treat the internet in a little bit more of a measured way. And because we don't have that, now you go to a comment section and it's like, oh my God, everyone's defending Johnny Depp. Okay, yeah, but are these all, women who also want to fuck him and they've seen every
Yeah.
single Pirates of the
Exactly.
Caribbean movie? So then you could kind of take that with more of a grain of salt.
No,
Mhm.
totally, and it's like you were saying before with, like, AI, it's like my TikTok gets curated if I get one video that was like Johnny Depp being funny during the trial, and
Yeah.
I, like, end up looking at the comments because I wanna see who is commenting on this. All of a sudden, like, 3 or 4 videos later, it's more of that, or, like, Amber Heard or lying through her teeth during the trial, so it's like, "Oh, so my algorithm is curating towards pro Johnny Depp, anti Amber Heard," and I'm, like, watching it while working and just being like, I don't know if that's essentially how it played out for me, but that's what my TikTok is saying it is."
It's
So,
wild, and, like, those are the things that we can clock and recognize when it's
mhm,
happening, but think of all the times that it happens in a way where it's a little bit less subtle and you don't realize that you're being
yeah.
manipulated, but then you
Mhm.
are. So I think people act like, they say gossip is lowbrow, and then they also say that TikTok is lowbrow. But people who know what's going on, it's not. That's how people get freaking elected. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's one of the most powerful tools that anyone could have.
Yeah.
It truly, truly is. I mean, Shannon, it has been a blast to have you on. It's been great to cover all these topics.
So fun.
Can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes. Go check me out. I'm at Fluently Forward everywhere. The name of the podcast, Instagram, TikTok. We do episodes on the public feed every Monday. We've got one coming up about which celebrities are using bots and streaming numbers and faking things online. And then patreon.com/fluently forward is where we do extra episodes every Friday. We just did one about Selena Gomez's homoerotic friendships that she has matching tattoos with, and then she never speaks to the person again. So
Oh my God.
yeah, I wanted to dive into what's going on with her because there's always something. So it's just fun if you want to check out anything that's celebrity related, but with a little bit of a conspiratorial edge. It's what I'm into.
We love it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Crime Cocktails and BS. Also follow us on all the socials. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, my dogs are joining in on this outro. So
They're also saying to listen.
Yes,
So,
they are.
yes.
Thanks.